Why does Earth exist? Science says it's an accident, a rock that happened to form at the right distance from the sun, where water could exist and life could randomly emerge. Religion says God created it as a home for humanity, a stage for the drama of sin and salvation. But what if both answers are wrong? What if Earth was designed for a purpose so profound, so essential to the cosmos itself, that revealing it would transform everything you believe about why you're here? The story I'm about to share is not theory. It's not speculation. It's what one man learned when he discovered a being hiding in his barn and received in return knowledge that has been concealed from humanity since the planet was formed. The true reason Earth exists, the real purpose it serves in the larger design of creation, and why you specifically chose to be here at this exact moment in history. I must warn you, this truth will shake your beliefs to their foundation. It will make you question why this knowledge has been kept from you. It will change how you see every sunrise, every storm, every moment of beauty and suffering on this planet. Because Earth is not what you think it is, and neither are you. If you've ever felt that your life has a purpose you can't quite grasp, that Earth itself seems designed for something you can't name, that there's a reason you're alive right now that goes beyond anything you've been told, this story will finally reveal what your soul has always known. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because what Thomas Riley discovered on his farm in rural Minnesota will expose Earth's hidden purpose and change how you understand your place in the universe. Now let me tell you how it all began. Clearwater County, Minnesota, November 2nd, 6:47 a.m. Thomas Riley was walking toward his barn in the pre-dawn darkness when he noticed the light, faint, bluish, seeping through the gaps in the old wooden slats like something alive was glowing inside. He stopped mid-stride, breath fogging in the cold November air. At 56, Thomas had worked this farm for 33 years. He knew every sound it made, every shadow it cast, every normal flicker of light from equipment or reflected moonlight. This was none of those things. His first thought was fire. Electrical short in the old wiring he kept meaning to replace. He broke into a run, heart pounding, images of his barn going up in flames, consuming his mind. But when he reached the door, there was no smoke, no heat, just that soft blue glow, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Thomas pulled open the barn door and stepped inside. What he saw made no sense. His tools hung in their usual places. The tractor sat where he had parked it. Bales of hay stacked against the far wall. Everything normal, except for the figure crouched in the corner behind the hay bales, emanating that impossible light. Thomas grabbed a pitchfork from its hook. His hands were steady. Whatever this was, he had survived worse. Vietnam, his wife's death, the cancer that had taken his son 5 years ago. Life had taught him that panic solved nothing. "Who's there?" he called out. "Come out where I can see you." The light dimmed slightly, and then the figure stood. It was tall, thin, gray skin that seemed to absorb and emit light simultaneously. Large dark eyes that reflected Thomas's weathered face back at him. Not human, not anything that belonged on a Minnesota farm at dawn. Thomas tightened his grip on the pitchfork. "What are you?" The answer came not through his ears, but through his mind. A voice that wasn't a voice, clear and calm and somehow familiar. "I am a traveler. My vessel was damaged passing through your atmosphere. I sought shelter while I attempted repairs. I mean you no harm, Thomas Riley." "How do you know my name?" "I know many things. I have been observing your world for a long time, and I have been observing you specifically for the past 3 years. Thomas felt ice run through his veins. "Observing me? Why?" "Because you are ready. Because the questions you have been asking have created a signal that beings like myself can perceive. Because you are meant to receive what I have to share." Thomas wanted to run, wanted to call the police, the military, anyone who could explain what he was looking at. But something held him in place, the same something that had kept him alive through jungles in Vietnam, the same something that had gotten him through burying his wife and then his son. Instinct, the deep knowing that some moments required presence, not flight. "What questions?" he asked. "What signal?" "The questions you ask at night when sleep will not come. Why am I still here when everyone I loved is gone? What is the point of this farm, this life, this world? Why does existence feel like a test I never agreed to take? Thomas lowered the pitchfork slightly. Those were his questions, exactly his questions, the ones he had never spoken aloud to anyone. 3 years ago, his son Michael had died. Leukemia, 28 years old, a good man with a pregnant wife and a future that should have stretched for decades. Thomas had watched him waste away in a hospital bed, had held his hand when the machines finally went silent, had stood at the grave, wondering why God would take a young man and leave an old farmer with nothing but empty fields and memories. His wife Catherine had died before that. 8 years gone now, heart attack in her sleep. No warning, no goodbye, just an empty space beside him that never stopped aching. Thomas had stayed on the farm because he didn't know what else to do, worked the land because work was the only thing that kept the darkness at bay, gone through the motions of living while feeling less alive with each passing year. And yes, in the silence of sleepless nights, he had asked those questions, demanded answers from a God who seemed to have stopped listening, wondered why he was still breathing when everyone who gave his breath meaning was gone. "You've been listening to my prayers?" Thomas said quietly. "My complaints?" Not prayers in the way your religions describe, but yes, the energy of sincere questioning creates ripples in consciousness that extend far beyond your physical world. Your questions reached us, and we determined that you were ready for answers. Answers to what? Why my son died? Why I'm still here? Those aren't the kinds of questions that have answers. Every question has an answer. Some answers are simply too large for the context in which the question is asked. You have been asking about your individual suffering. The answer requires understanding Earth's true purpose in the cosmos. The two are inseparable. Thomas looked at the being, at its impossible form, at the light that seemed to breathe around it. He was 66 years old. He had buried everyone he loved. He had nothing left to lose and no reason to be afraid. "Then tell me," he said. "Tell me why any of this exists. Tell me what Earth is actually for, because I've been waiting a long time for something that makes sense. I will show you more than tell you. But first, I must complete repairs to my vessel. It will take several hours. Will you allow me to remain in your barn until then?" Thomas thought about it. An alien being, hiding in his hay, asking permission like a polite guest. The absurdity almost made him laugh. "You can stay," he said, "but when those repairs are done, I want answers. Real answers, not riddles or metaphors. I want to understand why I'm still alive when everyone I loved is dead. Can you give me that?" "I can give you more than that, Thomas Riley. I can give you the context that will transform your suffering into purpose. I can show you why Earth exists, why you specifically are here, and why this exact moment in history is the most important your species has ever faced." Thomas leaned the pitchfork against the wall and sat down on a hay bale, watching the impossible creature begin to work on something he couldn't see with tools that seemed to materialize from light itself. He had waited 3 years for answers. He could wait a few more hours. And somehow, sitting in his barn at dawn with a being from another world, Thomas Riley felt something he hadn't felt since before Michael got sick. Hope. Thomas sat in his barn for 3 hours, watching the being work. The repairs involved technology he couldn't begin to understand. Light that became solid, tools that appeared and disappeared, components that seemed to assemble themselves according to thoughts rather than hands. He went inside once to make coffee, half expecting the being to be gone when he returned. Some hallucination brought on by grief and isolation finally manifesting in his exhausted mind. But when he came back, the creature was still there, still working, still impossible. "Coffee?" Thomas offered, holding up a second mug he had brought without quite knowing why. The being turned those large dark eyes toward him. Something that might have been amusement flickered across its features. "I do not consume liquids as you do, but the gesture is appreciated. Hospitality is rare when beings like myself are discovered by humans. Fear is far more common. I've been afraid plenty in my life. It stopped helping a long time ago." Thomas sat back down on his hay bale, wrapping his hands around the warm mug. "You said you've been observing Earth for a long time. How long?" "By your measurement of time, approximately 12,000 years. Though I have not been present continuously, I come and go as my duties require." 12,000 years, that's longer than recorded human history. Your recorded history captures only a fragment of humanity's existence, and an even smaller fragment of Earth's purpose. Your species has forgotten much, by design. By design? Someone wanted us to forget? Not someone. Something. The forgetting is built into the system. It is necessary for the purpose Earth serves, but the time for forgetting is ending. The time for remembering has begun. Thomas sipped his coffee, studying the being. His fear had faded entirely now, replaced by a curiosity he hadn't felt in years, maybe decades. Why me? Out of all the people on Earth, why appear to an old farmer in Minnesota? Because you have suffered enough to hear without flinching. Because you have asked sincerely without expecting comfortable answers. Because your soul has prepared for lifetimes to be exactly where you are right now. Lifetimes? You mean reincarnation? I mean that consciousness does not begin at birth or end at death. The being you call Thomas Riley is one expression of an eternal awareness that has experienced existence in many forms. This particular life was chosen for a specific purpose, and that purpose involves receiving the knowledge I'm about to share. Thomas set down his coffee. I'm a farmer. I grow soybeans and corn. I fix tractors and mend fences. I'm nobody special. There are no nobodies. Every consciousness is a fragment of the infinite expressing itself uniquely. But yes, you were chosen. Your losses prepared you. Your questions called out. And your willingness to sit here drinking coffee with an impossible being rather than running away confirms what we already knew. You are ready. The being finished its work on whatever device it had been repairing. The glow around it stabilized, becoming a steady, gentle light. The repairs are complete. My vessel will be retrieved within the day, but I have time now to fulfill my promise. Are you prepared to learn why Earth exists? Thomas thought about his son dying in that hospital bed, about his wife cold beside him that morning 8 years ago, about the questions that had tormented him through sleepless nights for longer than he could remember. I've been prepared my whole life, he said. I just didn't know what I was preparing for. Then let me begin by asking you a question. What do you think Earth is? Thomas frowned. A planet, third rock from the sun, home to humanity and millions of other species. Yes, but what is its function? In the larger design of existence, what purpose does it serve? I don't know. Science says it's just a random place where life happened to evolve. Religion says it's a creation of God, a place for humans to live and choose between good and evil. Both perspectives contain fragments of truth, but both miss the essential reality. The being moved closer, its form shifting to settle into something like a seated position across from Thomas. Earth is neither an accident nor simply a dwelling place. Earth is a school, the most important school in this sector of the galaxy, and the curriculum it teaches is unlike anything offered anywhere else in creation. A school? For what? For consciousness to experience what cannot be experienced anywhere else. Limitation, forgetting, separation, the opportunity to be completely cut off from awareness of your divine nature, and then find your way back to it through your own choices. Thomas leaned forward. I don't understand. Why would anyone want to experience limitation and separation? Because growth requires resistance. Strength requires struggle. And certain qualities of consciousness can only be developed through challenge. Think of it this way, Thomas. If you had never known loss, would you understand the value of love? If you had never faced hardship, would you comprehend the meaning of courage? No, I suppose not. Earth is designed to provide the maximum opportunity for growth through challenge. The density of this physical reality, the forgetting that occurs at birth, the seeming separation from the divine source, all of it creates conditions that accelerate spiritual evolution in ways that gentler environments cannot. Thomas thought about his life, the war, the losses, the grinding daily work that had shaped his body and his character, all of it as curriculum, all of it with purpose. So the suffering isn't punishment, it's education. Precisely. Though education is perhaps too gentle a word, Earth is more like a forge, a place where consciousness is heated and hammered and shaped into something stronger than it could become anywhere else. The souls who incarnate here are volunteers. They choose this difficult path because they understand what can be gained from it. We choose this? We choose to suffer? Before incarnation, yes. From the perspective of your eternal self, which exists outside time and sees the full picture, this life is a brief but valuable opportunity. The personality that is Thomas Riley does not remember choosing. That forgetting is part of the design, but your soul knew exactly what it was agreeing to. Thomas stood up abruptly, pacing across the barn floor. His mind raced with implications. My wife dying, my son dying. I chose that? My soul volunteered for that kind of pain. Your soul chose a life that would include profound loss, not to be punished, not to suffer meaninglessly, but because your soul knew that those losses would crack you open, would strip away everything superficial, would leave you raw and real and ready to receive exactly this conversation. Thomas stopped pacing. He turned to face the being, tears threatening at the edges of his eyes. That's a hell of a curriculum. It is. Earth is not for beginners. The souls who incarnate here are advanced. They have experienced many lifetimes in gentler environments and have chosen to come to the most challenging school in this region of existence. You are not weak for struggling, Thomas. You are strong for being here at all. Thomas wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. So Earth is a school, a forge, a place where souls come to be transformed through suffering. What's the graduation look like? What's the point of all this transformation? That is the most important question, and the answer is the true purpose of Earth that has been hidden from humanity. Not just personal growth, not just individual evolution. Earth exists to produce something that the cosmos desperately needs, something that can only be created here, something that will determine the future of consciousness itself. The being's eyes seemed to deepen, holding Thomas in their gaze. Are you ready to understand what that something is? Thomas sat back down on the hay bale. His coffee had gone cold. His hands had stopped trembling. Whatever came next, he was ready to hear it. Tell me everything. The being was silent for a moment, those vast dark eyes holding Thomas in a gaze that seemed to see through him entirely. To understand Earth's true purpose, you must first understand something about the cosmos itself. The universe is not dead matter, accidentally producing life. The universe is consciousness, living, aware, evolving. Every galaxy, every star, every planet is an expression of that consciousness, experiencing itself in form. Consciousness? You mean God? The word carries much baggage in your language, but yes, what your religions call God is the infinite consciousness from which all existence emerges, and that consciousness, like any living thing, grows, evolves, becomes more than it was. Thomas nodded slowly. This aligned with intuitions he had never quite been able to articulate, the sense that existence was meaningful, that awareness mattered, that there was a purpose beneath the surface of things. The universe evolves through the experiences of the beings within it. Every joy, every sorrow, every moment of awareness adds to the total understanding of consciousness itself. We are not separate from God experiencing a created world. We are God experiencing itself through countless perspectives simultaneously. So when I suffer, God suffers. When you suffer, God understands suffering from a perspective that could not exist any other way. Your pain is not meaningless. It is data, experience, knowledge that expands the total awareness of existence itself. Thomas thought about this, his grief as a contribution to cosmic understanding, his loss as expansion rather than emptiness. That helps, he said quietly, but it still doesn't explain why Earth specifically, why this particular school. Because Earth produces something unique, something that cannot be created anywhere else in this galaxy, perhaps anywhere else in the universe. The being raised one long, slender hand. Light gathered around its fingers, then expanded into the space between them, forming images that floated in the air like holograms. Observe. Thomas saw the cosmos, stars and galaxies and vast structures of light spanning distances his mind couldn't comprehend. And within that immensity, points of brightness, worlds, millions of them, billions, each one hosting consciousness in various forms. There are countless civilizations across the universe, countless species, countless worlds where consciousness experiences existence. But most of these worlds are gentler than Earth. The beings who live there remember their connection to the source. They do not experience the profound forgetting that humans endure. The images shifted, showing Thomas alien beings in environments of beauty and harmony. No violence, no hunger, no death as humans understood it. Existence as a continuous flow of awareness and growth. These civilizations are magnificent, ancient, wise. They have achieved states of consciousness that humans can barely imagine, but they lack something that only the harshest environments can produce. What do they lack? Resilience, the kind of strength that comes from being broken and rebuilding yourself, the capacity to hold light while surrounded by darkness, the ability to choose love when hate would be easier, to maintain faith when evidence suggests despair, to find meaning when meaning seems impossible. The images showed Thomas' souls, human souls, not as physical bodies but as patterns of light, each one unique, each one carrying something within it that seemed to burn brighter than the souls from gentler worlds. Earth produces spiritual warriors, consciousness forged in the most challenging conditions possible, beings who have faced separation from source and chosen reconnection, who have experienced the full weight of suffering and still found their way to love. Warriors? For what war? Not war as you understand it, but there is a cosmic need. The universe is not static. It continues to evolve, to expand, to encounter new challenges. Some of these challenges require the kind of consciousness that only Earth can produce. Beings who have been tested, broken, reconstructed stronger than before. The being showed Thomas something else, vast regions of the cosmos where darkness seemed to predominate. Not physical darkness, something else. An absence of connection, a spreading separation from source that threatened to consume entire sectors of existence. There are regions where consciousness has lost its way, where the connection to source has been forgotten so completely that reconnection seems impossible, where despair and separation have become self-sustaining cycles. These regions need healers, guides, beings who have personal experience with darkness and have found their way to light. Thomas stared at the images of cosmic darkness. It looked like depression felt, like grief felt, like the emptiness he had lived with since Catherine died and had deepened since Michael followed her. Earth produces healers for the cosmos? Among other things, the souls who graduate from Earth's curriculum become uniquely qualified to serve in places where gentler beings cannot survive. They carry within them the memory of separation and the knowledge of how to overcome it. They become beacons, teachers, living proof that even the deepest darkness can be transformed. And this is why Earth exists? To train these cosmic healers? This is one purpose, but there is more. The images shifted again. Thomas saw Earth itself now, viewed from space, a blue marble floating in darkness, beautiful, fragile. Earth is not only a school for individual souls, it is an experiment in collective evolution. Your species is being asked to do something that has never been done before, to awaken together, to transform as a civilization rather than only as individuals. What do you mean? Most worlds evolve gradually. Individual souls awaken over millions of years, slowly raising the collective consciousness of their species. But Earth is attempting something accelerated, a critical mass of souls awakening simultaneously, creating a shift that transforms the entire planetary consciousness in a single generation. Thomas thought about the world as he knew it, the violence, the division, the seemingly endless conflict between nations and ideologies. It doesn't look like we're doing very well at that. It looks like the chaos that precedes breakthrough, the darkness rising because the light is rising faster. Every system of control, every structure built on separation and fear, every lie that has kept humanity asleep is being exposed and challenged. The turbulence you perceive is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of transformation and progress. The being showed Thomas two possible futures. In one, the chaos resolved into something beautiful, humanity awakening collectively, technology used for healing rather than harm, resources shared rather than hoarded. A species taking its place among the cosmic community as equals rather than subjects. In the other future, the chaos consumed itself, division hardening into permanent conflict, technology used for control and destruction, a species failing its test and falling back to an earlier stage of evolution, requiring many more generations to reach this threshold again. These are not predetermined outcomes, they are possibilities. Which one manifests depends on choices being made right now by billions of humans. Each individual awakening tips the balance toward the first future. Each choice of love over fear, connection over separation, truth over comfortable lies contributes to the outcome. Thomas felt the weight of this settling on him. The stakes were larger than he had ever imagined. Not just his own soul's growth, the evolution of an entire species. Perhaps the fate of cosmic regions he couldn't even perceive. Why now? Why is this happening in my lifetime? Because your lifetime is the hinge point. The decisions made in the next 30 to 50 years will determine humanity's trajectory for millennia. The souls incarnating now, including you, chose to be here specifically for this moment. You are not victims of a chaotic time. You are volunteers who came to help with the most important transition your species has ever faced. Thomas laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm 56 years old. I'm a farmer whose family is dead and whose only contribution to the world is soybeans. How am I supposed to help with a cosmic transition? By doing exactly what you are doing right now, receiving truth, integrating it, and then, in whatever way feels authentic to you, sharing it with others who are ready to hear. The being's form seemed to become more solid, more present. You asked why I came to you specifically. This is the deeper answer. Your soul has been preparing for this role across many lifetimes. The losses you have experienced in this life were not random cruelty. They were preparation. They stripped away everything superficial, everything that would have distracted you from this moment. They made you ready to receive knowledge that most humans would dismiss or fear. My wife and son died to prepare me for a conversation with an alien? Your wife and son lived their own purposes and completed their own curricula. Their deaths served their evolution as well as yours. Catherine's soul chose a shorter life because she had learned what she needed to learn. Michael's soul chose to leave early to create exactly the opening in you that allowed this conversation to happen. They are not gone, Thomas. They are not victims. They are co-creators of the experience you are now having. Thomas felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't try to stop them. Can I see them? Can I know they're okay? I can show you. But understand that what you see will be a translation. Their current state of existence cannot be fully rendered in terms your physical brain can process. You will see a representation, not the full reality. The being touched Thomas's forehead with one long finger. Light flashed behind his eyes, and suddenly he was somewhere else. A field of golden light extended in every direction, not a physical place, but a state of being. And there, standing before him, were Catherine and Michael, not as he had last seen them. Healthy, radiant, whole. Tom. Catherine's voice was exactly as he remembered, warm, slightly amused, completely loving. Dad. Michael's grin, the one that had always made Thomas's heart swell with pride. How is this possible? Thomas whispered. Everything's possible, Tom. Catherine moved closer, and he could feel her presence even though their bodies didn't quite touch. We've been waiting for you to be ready to see us. We've been here the whole time. I've missed you so much. Both of you. I've been so alone. You were never alone. Michael shook his head. We've been with you every moment. You just couldn't perceive us. The grief was too heavy. It blocked the connection. I don't understand any of this. The alien in my barn, the cosmic purpose of Earth. Why are you showing me this? Catherine smiled. Because you needed to know that we're okay, that our deaths had meaning, that the pain you've carried served a purpose beyond just suffering. What purpose? What could possibly justify losing both of you? It broke you open, Dad. Michael's eyes held wisdom that hadn't been there when he was alive. Or maybe it had been, and Thomas just couldn't see it. It made you ask questions, real questions, the kind that create signals beings like our friend in the barn can receive. Without that breaking, you would have lived and died a good man who never knew what you're learning now. And that's worth it? Your deaths were worth this conversation? Our deaths weren't for this conversation. Catherine shook her head. Our deaths were for our own journeys. But yes, the gift of them to you was this opening, this possibility. What you do with it is your choice. Thomas stood in the golden light, looking at the two people he had loved most in the world. They weren't gone. They had never been gone. Death wasn't what he thought it was. What do I do? He asked. What am I supposed to do with everything I'm learning? Live. Catherine said simply. Really live, for the first time since I left. Let the grief transform into gratitude. Let the questions lead you forward instead of keeping you frozen. And when you're ready, share what you've received. Not everyone will believe you, but some will. And those some will share with others, and the ripples will spread. Earth needs you, Dad. Michael's voice was gentle but firm. Not just the cosmic Earth that's producing spiritual warriors. The local Earth, your community, your neighbors, the people you see at the hardware store and the diner. They're struggling with the same questions you've struggled with, and you can help them. I'm just a farmer. You're a farmer who talked to an alien and saw his dead family in a field of golden light. Catherine's smile carried a hint of her old teasing humor. That's a story worth telling. The golden field began to fade. Catherine and Michael began to blur at the edges. Wait, please, I have so many more questions. We'll talk again. Catherine's voice was becoming distant. Now that you know the connection is there, you can find it. In dreams, in quiet moments, in the space between thoughts. We're always here, Tom. We never left. I love you, Thomas called out as they disappeared. I love you both. We know. Michael's voice, barely a whisper now. We love you too. Now go do what you came here to do. And then Thomas was back in the barn, sitting on his hay bale, tears still streaming down his face. The being sat across from him, patient, waiting. That was real, Thomas said. They were really there. They are always there. The veil between dimensions is thinner than humans imagine. Death is not a wall, it is a doorway. And the ones you love never truly leave you. Thomas wiped his face with his sleeve. His heart felt different, lighter, as if a weight he had been carrying for years had suddenly been lifted. What else? He asked. What else do I need to understand? There is more about Earth's purpose, more about why this moment matters. But first, you need to understand your specific role. I'm listening. You are what we call a seed carrier, a soul whose purpose is to receive compressed truth and then unpack it through your own unique expression. You will not preach. You will not start a movement. You will simply live differently. You will radiate what you have learned through your presence, your choices, your way of being in the world. That doesn't sound like much. It is everything. Humanity does not need more prophets or preachers. It needs ordinary people living from awakened awareness, farmers who understand the cosmos, teachers who remember what they really are, parents who raise children without the lies that have kept humanity asleep. The transformation happens person by person, quietly, until suddenly the tipping point is reached. Thomas thought about his neighbors, the families at church, the workers at the grain elevator, ordinary people living ordinary lives, most of them carrying the same quiet desperation he had carried since Catherine died. And if I share what I've learned, if I tell them about you, about Earth's purpose, about the cosmic school, some will think you've lost your mind, some will become afraid, but some will recognize truth. They will feel it resonate with something they've always known but couldn't articulate. Those are the ones who matter. Those are the ones who will carry the seeds forward. The being stood, its form shifting slightly as light rippled across its surface. There is one final truth you must understand about Earth's purpose, the most important truth. Thomas stood as well, facing the being. Earth is not just a school, it is a womb. The souls being forged here are not just evolving for their own benefit. They are being prepared for a role that does not yet exist, a function in the cosmic design that has never been needed before. What role? That cannot be fully explained because it has not yet been created. But know this, what humanity becomes in the next generation will determine the nature of that role. If humanity awakens collectively, if you achieve the transformation that is possible, you will become something new in the cosmos. A species that has mastered the integration of darkness and light, a civilization that serves as a bridge between realms that have never been connected before. Thomas tried to grasp what this meant, a new role in the cosmos, a function that had never existed. It was too big for his mind to hold. Do not strain to understand fully. Understanding will come in time. For now, simply know that Earth matters more than you have ever imagined, that your life matters more than you have ever believed, and that the suffering you have experienced has prepared you for a purpose greater than any comfort could have provided. The being moved toward the barn door. Outside, the sun had fully risen. The November day was bright and cold. My vessel will arrive soon. But before I go, I want to tell you something. Thomas followed the being to the doorway. They stood together, looking out at the farm that suddenly seemed different, significant, a piece of cosmic purpose in the Minnesota landscape. Your wife and son chose their roles carefully. Catherine was your awakener. Her presence in your life opened your heart. Her absence broke it open further. Michael was your anchor. His life gave you purpose. His death removed every excuse you had to stay asleep. They planned this? Together? Before they were born? Souls who love each other often design their lives together. The precise details are not predetermined. Free will operates within every life, but the broad strokes, the major events, the key relationships, these are often agreed upon before incarnation. You, Catherine and Michael, are part of a soul group that has been learning and growing together for many lifetimes. And we'll be together again after I die? You are together now. Death does not separate souls who are connected. It merely changes the nature of the connection. But yes, when you complete this life's curriculum, you will reunite with them in full awareness, and you will plan your next adventure together. Thomas felt something he hadn't felt in years, not just hope, peace, the kind of peace that came from understanding rather than denial. Thank you, he said, for coming to my barn, for telling me all of this. I don't know what to do with it yet, but thank you. You will know. The knowledge will unfold within you over time. You will find yourself saying things you didn't know you knew, understanding things you never studied. The truth is not something you have to figure out. It is something you have to remember. And now that the process has begun, it will continue on its own. A light appeared in the sky, not the sun, something else, descending slowly toward the field beyond the barn. My retrieval has arrived. I must go. Will I see you again? Perhaps. Consciousness that has connected deeply tends to reconnect. But even if we do not meet again in your physical lifetime, know that the bond exists. You can reach out to me through intention, through focused thought. The connection we have established does not require physical proximity. The being walked toward the descending light, then it stopped and turned back. One more thing, Thomas Riley. Your son asked me to tell you something. He said you would understand. What? He said, the tractor needs new spark plugs, and the fishing gear is in the basement where you forgot you put it. When you're ready, the lake is waiting. Thomas laughed. A real laugh, the first one in years. Michael had always nagged him about maintaining the tractor, and they had planned to go fishing together the week before Michael got his diagnosis, a plan that had never happened. Tell him I'll get the spark plugs this week, and I'll find the fishing gear. He knows. He hears you now, Thomas. He has always heard you. The being stepped into the light and was lifted upward. Within seconds, both the being and the craft that had come for it were gone, leaving Thomas standing alone at the edge of his barn, staring up at an empty sky that now felt full of possibility. Earth was a school, a forge, a womb for something new. His suffering had been curriculum, his losses had been preparation, and somewhere in dimensions he couldn't see, his wife and son were waiting, proud of what he was about to become. Thomas turned and walked back toward his farmhouse. He had spark plugs to buy, fishing gear to find, and a purpose to fulfill that was larger than anything he had ever imagined. For the first time in years, he was looking forward to tomorrow. Thomas drove to the hardware store that afternoon. He bought spark plugs for the tractor, a new air filter, and a set of wrenches he didn't really need, but that reminded him of the days when he and Michael would work on equipment together. The woman at the register, Martha Hendricks, looked at him strangely. You okay, Tom? You look different somehow. Thomas smiled. It felt unfamiliar on his face, muscles remembering a position they hadn't held in years. I'm good, Martha. Better than I've been in a long time. Well, that's nice to hear. We've been worried about you, you know. Folks talk. I know they do, but I think the worst is behind me now. He drove home and spent the afternoon working on the tractor. His hands remembered the motions, even though his mind had been absent from them for months. The mechanical work felt different now, not a distraction from grief, but a connection to something larger. The machinery that helped him work the land that fed people who were all, according to what he had learned, fragments of the same infinite consciousness experiencing itself. Everything was connected. He had known that intellectually before. Now he felt it in his bones. That night, Thomas went to the basement and found the fishing gear exactly where Michael had said it would be. Buried under boxes of Christmas decorations and old winter clothes. He hadn't been down here since Catherine died. Too many memories in every corner. But the memories didn't hurt the same way now. They were still there, still vivid, still tinged with loss. But beneath the loss was something else. Gratitude for the years they had shared, for the love that still existed even though the physical forms were gone. He carried the fishing gear upstairs and set it by the back door. Tomorrow, he would go to the lake, not because Michael had told him to, because he wanted to, because for the first time since the diagnosis, he felt capable of joy. The first week after the encounter, Thomas moved through his days with a new awareness. He noticed things he had been blind to for years. The way sunlight fell through the kitchen window in the morning, the sound of wind in the cornstalks, the faces of his neighbors, each one carrying their own struggles, their own questions, their own secret hopes. He didn't tell anyone about the being in his barn, not yet. The knowledge was still settling inside him, still integrating, but he found himself listening differently when people talked, hearing the questions beneath their words, the longing for meaning that most people kept hidden, even from themselves. 2 weeks after the encounter, Thomas went to church for the first time since Michael's funeral. He had avoided the building, associated it with grief, and with a God he had been angry at for taking his family. But now he sat in the back pew and listened to the sermon with new ears. The pastor spoke about heaven and salvation, about sin and redemption. The words were familiar. Thomas had heard variations of them his entire life, but now he could see both the truth and the limitation in them. Fragments of a larger reality, simplified for minds that weren't ready for the full picture. After the service, an elderly woman named Dorothy Gunderson approached him. "Thomas, it's good to see you here. We've missed you." "I've missed being here. I wasn't ready before. I think I'm ready now." Dorothy studied him with eyes that had seen nearly 9 decades of life. "Something's changed in you. I can see it. What happened?" Thomas hesitated. Then he said simply, "I had an experience that helped me understand some things, about death, about why we're here, about what happens after." "What kind of experience?" "The kind that's hard to explain, but I'll try if you want to hear it." They sat together on a bench outside the church, and Thomas told her a carefully edited version of what had happened, not the alien, not the technology, but the core truths. That consciousness survives death, that our suffering has purpose, that the people we lose are not truly gone. Dorothy listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "My husband passed 12 years ago," she finally said. "I've felt him with me sometimes, in dreams, in quiet moments. I thought I was imagining it." "You weren't imagining it. He's there. They all are." Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. "I've been afraid to believe that. Afraid it was just wishful thinking. It's not. I can't prove it to you. But I know it, and I think somewhere deep down, you know it too." Dorothy took his hand and squeezed it. "Thank you, Thomas. I needed to hear that. I've needed to hear it for 12 years. This became Thomas's pattern over the following months. He didn't preach. He didn't start a movement. He simply showed up, listened, and when people were ready, he shared what he had learned in whatever form they could receive. The widow struggling with why God had taken her husband, the farmer worried that his life of labor had meant nothing, the teenager questioning whether existence had any purpose at all. Each one received what they needed, a truth tailored to their capacity, a seed planted that might grow in its own time. 3 months after the encounter, Thomas started writing, not for publication, just for himself, recording everything he had experienced and everything he had come to understand. The pages accumulated in notebooks that filled a box, then 2 boxes, then a shelf in his study. He wrote about Earth as a school for consciousness, about suffering as curriculum, about death as a doorway rather than a wall, about the cosmic purpose that humans were serving without knowing it, about the choice facing humanity and the role each person played in the outcome. Sometimes, late at night, he would feel that presence again. Catherine and Michael, close but not visible. warmth without form, love without words. He would talk to them, out loud in the empty house, and somehow he knew they heard. "I'm doing what you asked," he would say. "I'm living, really living. I'm sharing what I learned. Some people think I'm crazy, but some people are hearing it. Some people are waking up." And in the silence that followed, he could feel their approval, their pride, their ongoing participation in his journey. 6 months after the encounter, Thomas made a decision. The farm was too big for one person, too much work for aging hands. He had been holding on to it out of habit, out of fear of change, out of not knowing what else to do. But now, he knew what else to do. He sold most of the land to a young family who had been renting acreage nearby, kept the farmhouse and a few acres for himself, used the money to pay off debts, and create a cushion that freed him from the endless cycle of planting and harvesting that had defined his life. The young farmer, a man named Eric Johansson, asked him why he was selling after all these years. "Because I've got other work to do now," Thomas said. "Work I can't do if I'm spending every waking hour fighting with equipment and weather." "What kind of work?" Thomas considered how to answer. Eric was a practical man, skeptical, not the type to accept stories about beings in barns. "The kind of work that involves talking to people, listening, sharing what I've learned about how to get through the hard times. I've had plenty of hard times, Eric. I've learned a few things about surviving them." Eric nodded slowly. "My grandfather used to say that old farmers make the best philosophers. Maybe there's something to that." "Maybe there is." 1 year after the encounter, Thomas began traveling, short trips at first, to nearby towns where he knew people, where word had spread about the old farmer who had something worth saying about life and death and meaning. He would sit in coffee shops and living rooms, in church basements and community centers, not lecturing, just talking, answering questions, sharing the perspective that had been given to him in that November dawn. The responses varied. Some people were polite but unconvinced. Some thought he had lost his mind to grief, but others, a growing number, leaned in with recognition in their eyes. They had felt these truths without knowing how to name them. They had experienced glimpses of the larger reality he described. And hearing it articulated by a plain-spoken farmer who had buried his wife and son gave them permission to trust what they had always suspected. "I saw my mother after she died," a woman told him after one gathering. "Just for a moment, standing at the foot of my bed, smiling. I've never told anyone because I knew they'd think I was crazy." "You're not crazy," Thomas said. "She was there. She's probably still there, checking in on you, proud of who you've become." The woman wept. "How do you know? How can you be so sure?" "Because I've seen my wife and son, because I've learned that death doesn't work the way we've been taught. The people we love don't disappear. They just step into a room we can't normally see. But sometimes, when the conditions are right, when love is strong enough, we get glimpses. And those glimpses are real." 2 years after the encounter, Thomas had touched hundreds of lives, not as a famous speaker or author, just as a man who told the truth, as he understood it, and let people take what they needed. He thought often about what the being had said, that humanity was at a crossroads, that the awakening happened person by person, that ordinary people living from awakened awareness could tip the balance toward transformation. He didn't know if he was making a difference in the cosmic sense. He couldn't see the larger patterns that the being had shown him, but he could see the smaller ones, the faces that lightened when people realized death wasn't the end, the relationships that healed when grudges seemed pointless in the face of eternity, the hope that kindled in eyes that had been dark with despair. That was enough. That was what he had been prepared for. That was why Catherine had opened his heart and Michael had broken it open further. Thomas stood on his porch in the early morning light, watching the sun rise over the land he had worked for 35 years, the land that was no longer entirely his, the land that would continue to feed people long after his own journey was complete. He thought about the lake and the fishing gear that he had finally used, about the tractor that was running smoothly again, about the being in his barn who had changed everything by telling him the truth. Earth was a school, his suffering was curriculum, his losses were preparation, and his purpose, the purpose he had been seeking without knowing it for his entire life, was simply this: to help others understand the same truths that had set him free. The sun rose higher, another day was beginning, another opportunity to plant seeds that might grow in ways he would never see. Thomas went inside to make coffee and start living the day he had been given, just like Catherine and Michael would have wanted. Thomas Riley was a farmer who had lost everything: his wife, his son, his reason to keep living. Then a being appeared in his barn and revealed why Earth exists, why we suffer, and what our lives are actually for. Earth is not an accident. It is not simply a home for humanity. It is a school, a forge, a womb for something the cosmos has never seen before. The most challenging environment in this sector of the galaxy, designed to produce souls who have experienced the full weight of darkness and still chosen light. You are not here by chance. You chose this life before you were born. Every struggle you face, every loss you endure, every moment of confusion and pain is part of a curriculum designed to transform you into something the universe desperately needs. Consciousness forged in difficulty, love proven through adversity, faith tested by darkness, and emerging stronger. The people you have lost are not gone. They are watching, waiting, participating in your journey from dimensions you cannot normally perceive. The veil between worlds is thinner than you imagine, and the connections you have made with those you love do not end at death. This is why you're here. This is why Earth exists, not as a random rock circling an ordinary star, but as the most important classroom in creation. And you are exactly where you're supposed to be, facing exactly what you need to face, becoming exactly who you were meant to become. If this story resonated with something deep inside you, share your thoughts in the comments. What have you always sensed about Earth's purpose? What losses have prepared you for understanding you didn't know you needed? And if you want more revelations like this one, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. You are not a victim of this world, you are a volunteer. And Earth has been waiting for you to remember why you came.